In the quiet residential community of Laguna Woods, California, a series of mystifying events would unfold, leaving one family grappling with the aftershocks of loss and the subsequent unsettling presence of the paranormal. It was December 2013 when tragedy struck the lives of Kira and Tristan Beaumont, with the unexpected passing of Tristan's mother Meredith. Meredith Beaumont had resided in the tranquil 55-plus community for several years, her quaint home a sanctuary of family memories and cultural nostalgia. However, her sudden deterioration and week-long coma shattered the family's sense of normalcy. As Meredith slipped away, Kira, Tristan and their one-year-old son Callum found themselves displaced, taking refuge in Meredith's home while attending to the aftermath of her passing. It was during those solemn nights in Laguna Woods that Kira encountered the first in a series of unsettling incidents that would persist long after Meredith's death. One evening, as she carried a crying Callum into the living room, Kira was startled by what appeared to be a figure seated in the recliner chair. Though illuminated by the ambient light, the chair was occupied by a translucent, ethereal body, prompting Kira to recoil in surprise. This initial encounter marked the beginning of a distinct unease that an unknown presence had infiltrated the house. Over the next few days, Kira's perception of the home shifted. She could not shake the feeling of being watched by a lingering entity. Though she believed it was not Meredith's spirit, Kira sensed a duality to the energy given off by the presence, predominantly feminine, yet occasionally masculine, as if the house was harbouring more than one phantom occupant. The loss of Meredith brought forth not only grief, but also a reunion of sorts, as estranged family members converged to pay their respects. It was during the memorial service that a heartwarming reconciliation took place between Tristan's uncle Ethan and his long-estranged son Rowan. After years of distance, the news of Meredith's passing had drawn Rowan back into the fold, his surprise appearance at the service igniting an emotional reunion with his father and the extended family. However, in the aftermath of the service, an unsettling incident occurred, further hinting at the supernatural forces now in effect at the property. As the family gathered at Meredith's home for an after-party, Kira's sister Tessa joined them, mingling with the reunited relatives. It was the following day that Tessa recounted a perplexing observation. She claimed to have seen and interacted with Rowan at the house, despite the fact that he had left immediately after the memorial from the funeral home. This was confirmed by Rowan, who insisted he never came to Meredith's home to attend the after-party. Tessa vividly described a young man fitting Rowan's description, standing between the living room and kitchen, silently observing the conversations around him. She had even made eye contact and exchanged smiles with this figure, fully intending to engage him in conversation before becoming distracted by other relatives. By the time Tessa had the opportunity to approach him, the man had vanished, leading her to assume he had simply left unnoticed. Kira's blood ran cold as she listened to her sister's account, her mind immediately connecting the dots to her previous encounter with the recliner-bound apparition. The possibility that Tessa had witnessed yet another spiritual manifestation only added to the growing sense of unease that permeated the home. With Tristan returning to his work in Texas, Kira remained in Laguna Woods to sort through Meredith's belongings and prepare for the daunting task of clearing out the house. It was during this extended stay that the paranormal activity escalated, each incident more unsettling than the last. One night, as Kira lay in bed reading, an overwhelming sensation of being watched came over her. The presence was unbearable, emanating from the hallway, and Kira's body reacted instinctively with a surge of anxiety. Though not outright fear, the feeling was undeniably eerie, as if the invisible entity was peeking around the door from the hall. In a bold attempt to establish boundaries with the supernatural intruder, Kira addressed the presence directly. "I know you're here and that's okay," she said. "Just don't scare or harm me or my son. Otherwise, you're welcome here." Despite her efforts, however, the paranormal occurrences persisted, each more perplexing than the last. One subsequent morning, Kira was confronted with a disturbing sight. Her 1-year-old son, Callum, had been found completely undressed in his crib, a behaviour utterly uncharacteristic for the young child. Callum had never before exhibited a tendency to remove his own clothing, let alone his diaper, leading Kira to suspect the involvement of a resident spirit. As if to reinforce her suspicions, unexplained smells began to permeate the house, further adding to the growing catalogue of paranormal phenomena. During one packing session, Kira's sister detected the unmistakable aroma of Chanel No. 5 perfume wafting through the hallway, a scent that Kira herself had encountered on multiple occasions. Yet the fragrance held no connection to Meredith, who had never been known to wear such perfumes. Even more unsettling was the sudden manifestation of body odour, an unpleasant scent that assaulted Kira's senses as she packed Meredith's china cabinet. Despite thorough self-checks and discreet sniffing of her sister, the source of the odour remained elusive, leading Kira to conclude that it was yet another manifestation of the ever-present spirits. As preparations were underway for an estate sale, the paranormal activity reached a crescendo. Kira had meticulously arranged Meredith's collection of shoes on a rack in the master bedroom, a task completed with care the night before the sale. However, upon waking the following morning, she was greeted by a scene of disarray. The neatly displayed shoes had been scattered across the floor, some flung impossibly far from their original placement. Kira froze in disbelief, her mind racing to comprehend the impossible nature of the disturbance. There was no logical explanation for the shoe's displacement, and the presence of her sleeping son in the other room ruled out any potential mischief on his part. As the estate sale progressed, Kira found herself sharing her haunting confrontations with friends who had come to lend their support. To her surprise, many had experienced their own recent brushes with the paranormal, validating her accounts and adding new layers to the mystery. One friend, visibly spooked by Kira's recounting of the phantom perfume, confessed to having encountered the very same scent earlier that morning. She described the odour as if it was trailing behind an invisible figure moving down the hallway. The overwhelming aroma of women's perfume was so potent and out of place that it had caught her off guard. Kira's response was matter-of-fact, "Well, you've met my ghost." But the true climax of the haunting occurred soon after, as Kira conducted a routine walkthrough of the house. Upon entering the master bedroom, she was greeted by a sight that sent chills down her spine. The shoes, once again, had been dislodged from their rack and strewn across the floor, eerily mirroring their previous displacement across the room. Throughout the ordeal, Kira maintained an open dialogue with the entities, reiterating her plea for peaceful coexistence. "You're welcome here," she would implore. "Just don't scare or harm me or my son." As the weeks passed and the task of clearing out Meredith's belongings neared completion, the decision was made to sell the house and try to move on from the haunting experiences. It was during the listing process that Kira jokingly inquired about whether it was necessary to disclose the home's haunted status to the realtor. The realtor, perhaps accustomed to dismissing such claims, remained unperturbed by Kira's accounts of the activity. Undeterred, Kira shared the full extent of her experiences, from the phantom perfume to the seated apparition to the inexplicable displacement of the shoes. As the family prepared to bid farewell to the house in Laguna Woods, they carried with them not only the memories of Meredith, but also the heavy imprint of the supernatural encounters that had unfolded there. The haunting had become an inextricable part of their grieving process, a reminder that the veil between the living and the dead is often thinner than we realise. In the years that followed, the Beaumont family would come to view their time in Laguna Woods as a profound and transformative experience, one that challenged their beliefs and forced them to confront the perplexing realm of the paranormal. The house, once a sanctuary, had become a portal to the unknown, a place where the echoes of the past refused to fade. And the question still remained: who were these spectral beings? What were their origins? And why did they choose to signal their presence in such unusual ways?